is October 13th, 2025, and President Trump just gave a truly horrifying speech before the Israeli Knesset that really put everything on the table. He told everyone just how far that Adelson family money goes, and he also, I would argue, laid the groundwork for war with Iran, more war with Iran, because we're already in this war. But he made it clear that the US is directly involved, that they are sending Israel all of the weapons, that they are completely complicit in what is still an ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people. Trump has no shame. He's putting it all out there in the open. And he's also using a phrase that has been used by people like Netanyahu and by think tanks in Israel, which is, of course, the new Middle East.
It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
Now, I want to get into a few highlights from his speech here in today's video, but that one really stood out to me. The new Middle East. Do you remember when just a couple of years ago, before the October 7th attacks, it was Netanyahu who was using that same term when he held up a map before the United Nations General Assembly where there was no Palestine. Israel had essentially taken over. He didn't bring the map of Greater Israel, I guess, because he didn't want to offend all of the countries that he plans to take land from down the road. But he was just fine with erasing Palestine off the map and calling it the new Middle East. The new Middle East is also what was referred to, if you remember that billboard that was seen in Tel Aviv just a few months ago, in which it had all of these individuals, right? It had Trump. Everyone was flocked around Trump. There was Netanyahu. There was Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, the former ISIS leader, who is now, quote unquote, leading Syria. And it also notably set the stage for the fact that the new Middle East is not necessarily even about Palestine or Israel. It's about isolating Iran. It's about everyone standing up against Iran. And it's also about the US pursuing its goal of a future war against Iran. Now, I know whenever I talk about this, I often get comments from people that are like, well, that's not logical, right? Iran would not just fall. Well, sure, but US foreign policy is not logical. The US would not have launched a full-on proxy war against Russia if it were dealing in logic. No, this is about targeting the key pillars of the multipolar world. It's about targeting countries like Russia and China and Iran and knowing that they all work together. And now we're seeing the US take some very dangerous steps, specifically targeting Iran. And even though you don't necessarily have Trump saying that, right? Instead, he's claiming that, oh, our attack on Iran, that somehow led to this quote unquote peace deal. Even though he's not coming out right and saying, hey, the next step is war on Iran, you can tell that by looking at everything else that he's saying. He also specifically mentioned all of the weapons that the US is sending to Israel, has sent to Israel, and basically claimed that Netanyahu had a direct line to call Trump up, tell him what he wanted, and that the U.S. would provide it.
I mean, Bibi would call me so many times, can you get me this weapon, that weapon, that weapon? Some of them I never heard of, Bibi, and I made them. But we'd get them here, wouldn't we? And they are the best. They are the best. But you used them well. It also takes people that know how to use them.
And as I've been covering, the concern now that we have an established ceasefire in Gaza, now that Trump is claiming that the war is over, as he calls it, never mind the genocide. And that was another big theme of this speech, was completely whitewashing the genocide of the Palestinians, which was to be expected when Trump is talking to the Knesset. Not like he can really put any blame on them because he's directly involved in all of it. But you also have to ask yourself what comes next, right? Trump's sitting here talking about, oh, we sent this weapon to Israel and that weapon to Israel. He's not necessarily mentioning the fact that the US military has been moving assets to the Middle East for months now. And you look at all of that and you go, okay, you think Israel's just going to sit silently and do nothing? No, they are going to prepare for the next attack on their next target. Right now, they're playing this game of claiming that, oh, Iran is so isolated because that is their goal. That's how it starts. And I say starts as if the US hasn't been moving towards war with Iran for decades now, but that's how the latest phase of it starts. And you have Trump in this position where he has no shame about the fact that he has been Israel first for his entire first term and now so far in his second term. And clearly, I don't see that changing anytime soon. And I know that there was a lot of talk last year when you had Miriam Adelson giving Trump $100 million in donations. And people were looking at it and they were going, oh, yeah, he's just going to take the money and then he's going to get into office and do what he wants. Well, I don't know why anyone thought that Trump wouldn't be Israel first the second time around, given everything that he did during his first term, right? Given moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, having the U.S. recognize the occupied Syrian Golan Heights, and so on and so forth. You had to know that Trump was going to be Israel first the second time around. He literally did nothing to convince anyone otherwise. I mean, look at his trips up to Michigan, his meetings with Arab Americans while he was trying to get their votes in the 2024 election. Even then, when he's sitting there and he's talking about peace in the Middle East, we have to remember that peace in the Middle East for Trump is the Abraham Accords. It's this idea of this new Middle East where Iran is completely isolated and the US has its proxies everywhere, where Iran is surrounded by the US and by its proxies. That's what he means by peace. That is his idea of it. And so Trump is sitting there, and in this speech to the Knesset, he gives a little bit of insight into his relationship with Miriam Adelson and her late husband, Sheldon Adelson.
Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got $60 billion in the bank, $60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in and would do.
And if there was a clear case of follow the money, this would be it. But here's the thing. I don't necessarily believe that Trump is all that different from presidents who came before him. Is he an outright Zionist publicly? Sure, but so was Joe Biden. I would argue, too, to a certain extent, so was Barack Obama. I mean, look back to the Obama administration and the fact that while the media told you at the time that there was some sort of friction between Obama and Netanyahu, or that Obama didn't like Israel, what was he doing at the time? Oh, he was signing off on what was, at the time, the largest U.S. aid package for Israel, right? Locking in that 38-some billion dollars for the next 10 years. Little did we know it was only going to increase from there. But then you bring in someone like Donald Trump, and the Adelson family just serves as the catalyst, right? They know that Trump wants to hear money, that he talks money. So they go in and they give him money. They go in and they visit him in the White House and they butter him up and they tell him about how he needs to recognize the Golan Heights, even though it's Syrian territory, and so on and so forth. They know how to speak Trump. So while yes, Trump is ushering in an incredibly horrifying new age in the sense that he is at the forefront of not only the targeting of the Palestinians, but also the targeting of Iran. Trump has been, I would argue, one of the most useful U.S. establishment puppets because they know how to get him to do exactly what they want. They don't have to fight very hard. And so that's why, moving forward, I am more concerned than ever after watching Trump's speech about what the U.S. and Israel have planned for Iran, about the ways in which they are going to try to target Iran, because it's not enough to just roll out this idea of the new Middle East, get as many countries as they can into the Abraham Accords, and to tell the world that Iran is isolated. Oh no, they want it to go much further. They want to target Iran in a number of ways. They want not only regime change, but to be fully in control and to make it so that Iran is no longer a key pillar of the multipolar world, to take away a close friend and ally from Russia and from China. And so as you're watching these clips of Trump's speech that are going around on the internet, as you're watching him talk about peace, remember that there is no peace here. There is just more endless war with a different target. And that's something everyone should be talking about. If anything in this video resonated with you, be sure to like it, share it with your friends, leave a comment. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to keep up with all of my work, make sure that you're subscribed to my page on Substack. That's rachelblevins.substack.com. That's where you'll find ad-free videos and new weekly episodes of my exclusive series for paid subscribers called Sanctioned. You can also check out Sanctioned over on my page on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Rachel Blevins. As always, thank you all so much for all of your support, and I'll see you next time.